Welcome back to the Irish Mags Show. I'm your host, Paul, and joining myself and the twins, as you can see on your screen, Alan and Krisho this week, is one of our favourite podcasters in the Newcastle United community, who we've been very much looking forward to having on the show. Making her Irish Mags Show debut, it is, of course, Charlotte Robson from the True Faith podcast. Welcome in, Charlotte.
Thank you so much for having me. What a lovely, sparkling introduction. I'm very grateful.
It only goes south from here, Charlotte. We like to start, really nice and friendly, and then
all
we're just
downhill.
Got it.
Yeah.
Set the bar high and then lower it slowly. Got it.
Exactly. Now, Charlotte,
Slowly.
we are gonna spend some time talking about you, but I just have to bring something up, guys. I had concerns about this show because, first of all, Alan and Krisho spent the whole weekend over in Newcastle for the Sella Weekender. I wasn't even sure that we'd see them both here, let alone dressed the same, which they probably were for the whole weekend. And Charlotte, you're looking very bronze there. Look like you've been overseas, or maybe you've been on the sunbed, but I believe something different happened. You weren't at the Sella this weekend.
No, I was not. I was taking the very last weekend before the season starts properly, and I went out to Ibiza. My cousin has a place out there, so I went out for the weekend and spent some time on the beach.
Lovely.
That's not a bad way to spend the last stress-free weekend before the
That's
season
it. I can't believe it starts so soon. It's just blowing my mind. Oh yeah, weekends won't belong to me again very shortly. That's fine.
We've all been counting down to it, but it has come crazy fast. I feel like we're not ready because the transfer window and everything, we're just not ready. But I suppose we'll speak about that, won't we? Indeed.
We will.
So yeah, well, I'm glad you're all I hope you're all feeling fresh then between a weekend in Newcastle and a weekend in Ibiza, while I was spending the weekend in Galway doing very little. So at least I'll be able to hold things together, guys. It'll be all great. All good in the hood. Right, on this week's show, we will of course be putting Charlotte under the Irish Mags microscope as we talk all things Newcastle United and True Faith, before then moving on to our spotlight, which will be our pre-season predictions, with just 5 days to go, as we've just said, until we finally kick off the new 24-25 season against Southampton at home this weekend. I'm very excited, as you may detect, because I'm actually going to this game, and it's made not going over for the Sella Weekender a little bit easier, knowing that that's coming. Never mind Ibiza. So I'm buzzing as it stands, and you'll detect that during the show today. And yeah, we may also talk about some topical things, because even today, on the day of recording, it is Monday, there's more rumbles in the transfer rumour environment, ingoings and outgoings, so I might have a chat about that, because this may also impact some of our pre-season predictions. Before we get to all that, Charlotte, let's just put all the focus on you. You're looking a bit too comfortable for my liking, so let's change that very quickly.
Great.
I suppose mainly, Charlotte, for any of our listeners who don't know who you are, as we said, you are one of our favourite podcasters from the True Faith podcast that all of our listeners, as we know in the Irish Mags community, listen to. We're going to ask you some questions, but before I do that, Charlotte, I have it on good authority. You have quite a strong, let's say, an affection or an affiliation to Ireland. Maybe not an official collection, as you were alluding to before we hit the big record button, but I know at the very least you've been here, so we can start with that and go easy.
Yeah, I have. I've never been to the West Coast, which is high on the list. I apologise for that.
Better
Paul.
be.
But I've been to Dublin a few times, and I have a soft spot for Irish men.
Yes, finally.
There's the exclusive. That's the exclusive.
Rejoice.
I always have. When I was 18, I did a gap year, and I did the often treaded trail of Thailand and Australia, and there were just loads of Irish people. And I think Irish, and I know I'm generalizing because I'm just going to, but I think Irish people and people from Newcastle have a very similar sense of humor, a very sort of self-deprecating thing. And I just had the most fun. I laughed the most whenever I was with sort of the Irish people that I met on my travels, and some of them were boys, and that was also great. So that's as much as I'll give you on that.
Perfect.
I think that's fair. We won't push you for any further information.
Not naming it.
We'll get it when we stop recording, guys. Don't worry, and then we'll just hold it over. No, I think it's true. We talk about this a lot, obviously, as the Irish Mags supporters group, and obviously as long-term Newcastle fans. We've all been going there for years, since we were much smaller than we are now, even though I haven't really grown since. I still fit into most of my Newcastle kits from when I was about 9. But anyway, but like, you know, Alan, obviously you lads just spent the weekend there, but we kind of like, you kind of go over there and it doesn't feel, you know, even going back years, it never feels like a bit of a culture shock, or it's different to going to some other cities. You just kind of land in and you know, people kind of go, oh, you're Irish, great, pint. And you just kind of
Yeah.
Game
It
on.
definitely feels like that in the reverse as well. Like it's just so easy and everybody's just so friendly. There's just you immediately feel like you've known people for ages. And I have a tendency to behave that way anyway, with anybody that I just meet. But it's rarely reciprocated in the same way that it is when I'm around Irish people. So I'm a big fan.
It's the same. Like when we got there, Paul, myself and Alan stepped out. It was just like being at home again. Do you know what I mean? And one of the first things that somebody said to us in the stack was a lovely old gentleman and his wife sitting there, and they heard our accent, and they came over to the table and they just said, "Look, we really appreciate you taking the time and coming over and supporting our city and supporting our club." And I was like, our hearts are melting. We've only been here 15 minutes. And I was like, it's our pleasure. We love being here. We love the place. He's like, no, it's really lovely to see. Thanks, guys. And he walked off, and we were like, this is going to be the best weekend ever.
Oh, that's so nice. And I think people can be loud, like a small amount of people can be loud on social media about you need to be from here and all of that stuff. But that's the example. That's the real example, isn't it? That's the way most people feel. They're just excited that the region, you know, you want to come to the region, you want to see the team play, and you want to integrate yourself into the community. And we welcome you with open arms. So
that's good.
It's fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic.
even you, Alan.
Yeah.
Alan came over and ruined it all.
Even you.
No, but I think it's we hear the same from all because we have a lot of the Irish Mags guys who like have supported Newcastle for years and are now starting to bring over their kids. And we all remember that feeling of like the first time walking up the steps and seeing the pitch, and we see a lot of our members like recording their own kids now doing it, and it's class to see the kind of repeat or the cycle kind of completing itself, and they're having the same experience as us, you know, going over and just landing in the city. Maybe not as much in terms of our pubs experience, because pubs in Newcastle are very welcoming to the Irish as well, and they generally do quite well out of us as well, to be fair. So you can't blame them. Okay. Enough about the lovely Irish hospitality and the lovely Geordie hospitality. Now let's get serious. Charlotte, we usually, when we have a guest on, especially the first time, we like to pick apart kind of your Newcastle history, some of your earliest memories and all that kind of stuff. So we could start nice and easy, maybe like your origins or your earliest memory as a Newcastle fan, and you know, as we alluded to, you know, that first game, that feeling of going into St. James's Park for the first time, assuming you remember it. Either due to age or not being drunk. Can you maybe just give us a little flavour of your own kind of earliest memories as a Newcastle fan and growing up? Yeah,
sure. So I from here. I don't have the strongest accent in the world, but I was born and raised in Newcastle, and I've got an older brother, and my dad always had season ticket with his friend Wyatt, who was often not in the city, so my brother always used to go with my dad, and I was so jealous, like crippled with jealousy. And I remember just thinking, like, I don't understand why the boy gets to go and I don't get to go, like I should get to go. And then I remember when we beat Man U 5-0, when Keegan scored, beat Man U 5-0, my is it behind you?
That's the Clive Tilsley like team sheet.
I know it.
No, it's from that game. Yeah,
that's fast. Well, I remember me and my brother had gone to stay at my grandma's house, and my grandma had been to the club shop or something, and she bought my brother a 5-0 mug, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Obviously I didn't have that language as a child, but I remember being like, where the hell's my mug? And she was like, well, girls don't really like football. And I was like, girls like football. And I made it and tea, and I made it my like, I think just because I'm quite stubborn, I made it my like, I'm gonna like football, I'm gonna show you that I like football. And my dad didn't want to take me until I was 11. For some reason, this sort of arbitrary number was plucked out of somewhere. And my 11th birthday, we played Derby County and beat them. I think it was Carl Court scored.
Oh, nice.
Iconic.
Uber driver now.
That was my first game. and I was just hooked. And it was partly about like going with my dad. Like I was jealous that my brother got to go and do that with my dad, and like they had this bond. And by the time I was 11, my brother was 14, and he wasn't really interested in football anymore. He was quite like into skateboarding and like that kind of culture, and so the football kind of fell by the wayside. And so my dad was like sort of casting about, looking for someone to go with him, and I was like, definitely take me. So it was always part of my life growing up. Like there's all these photos of me as a kid with Newcastle United face paint and stuff on. But yeah, my first game was that game. And I was just like, whenever I could go, whenever my dad, you know, had the tickets and my mum felt it was okay, I would go because I just loved it. I do actually remember being like in the second half, like thinking like, this is quite long, isn't it? this is going on a bit long, but I just wasn't used to it. And I wasn't used to like being in that space. So yeah, that's my memory. And I also remember you could smoke in the stands, and like there were loads of people smoking around me, and I just really like viscerally remember like a lot of like cigars or that cigarillo type, you know, the ones that are like stronger than just a cigarette.
Stinking.
Yeah, I just remember that smell really vividly in the East End where my dad's ticket was. So yeah, that was me.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, like Carl Court cigars. This is like iconic Newcastle legacy and history here in one memory. That's pretty impressive, I must say.
Nice.
No, that's that. I mean, it's class. We all kind of remember our first games. I don't remember there being smoking in the stadium, but I mean, maybe I was smoking myself. We wouldn't really comment on that at all.
Yeah.
And then, assuming it's not Carl Court, you know, is there a particular player, Charlotte, that kind of like has? I suppose, I mean, looking back, favorite player is a really generic term, right? But like, you know, if you were looking back to say like they were the days, or a particular player that you kind of resonated with, is there anyone that stands out?
Yeah, for me, it was definitely around that time. So it was Solano. I just loved him. I loved watching him play. Like, I think he was the first kind of player that really excited me as that kind of young person, like watching him play. It was just like exciting when he got the ball, and it was exciting. Like the crowd, you could feel the crowd get excited when he was on it. And I also won. I remember when I was at school, I won some kind of competition to go and get a ball signed. Like the players used to do this, like these like signing days, and you'd go, your name would be put down on a list, and then you'd go. And I think you had to take the ball with you, but the players would just be like lined up on trestle tables, and then you just go along the row, and they'd sign it. And I went with my teacher because I'd won it through school, and my teacher was like, "You're her favorite," and I was like, "Okay, that's embarrassing. That's so embarrassing." And then at the end of it, I won the thing, right? They took the ball off me and were like, "This is going to be another prize in a different raffle. Like, you only won like coming here." And I was like,
No.
kidding me? Like, I'd have brought me a little autograph book if I'd known that like I wasn't going to keep it. Nobody mentioned that to me.
Raging.
Yeah, I'm still angry about it.
Yeah, 100%. That's disgraceful.
Yeah, isn't
That ball is definitely on. That ball is on eBay now as we speak. Going for that.
It's in the teacher's bedroom on the mantelpiece. That's where.
That's, I don't remember seeing it again actually in any school thing.
Scandal.
Well, I'm just gonna call Nobby Solano a close personal friend. I'll get him. Right?
Give him a ring, yeah.
No,
They're using it down on the
definitely
training
him.
ground in Blythe there. No, they're not.
Yeah, definitely him was my sort of like, yeah.
So like, it's a perfect choice, Solano. I think he kind of captures that time of our lives, like as Newcastle fans when you're a certain age, and just when we talk about Solano here, especially on this pod, we're talking about signings, and there's all this kind of like, we're only going to be excited by big name signings, but where are the days where we just plucked this guy out of nowhere from Boca Juniors in Argentina for next to no money, and he just came in and took the Premier League by storm? I mean, we need more of that. His right foot was just glorious, free kicks, crossing.
Yeah. So much fun to watch.
Okay, so you've had some traumatizing things in there in terms of like being smothered in cigar smoke and having things stolen from you as a kid. Let's talk about a highlight as a Newcastle fan, which, look, there's different phases, and there's been probably so much, obviously, in that space of time. Don't worry, we will come to low light as well. But what would your highlight as a Newcastle fan be, Charlotte, if it's an easy question to answer for you? or at least a memorable part of your
Yeah,
Newcastle
it's
life?
tough, I think, because there've been so many highlights over the last 2 years that, like 2.5 years, that
Yeah.
have made their way into like my top moments, including qualifying for the Champions League, having those that Paris Saint-Germain match at St James's Park. Like nothing has been like that for me. But I think probably, and I've said it before, so apologies if you've heard me say this, but at least I'm consistent, is the Arsenal 4-4, because I was there with my dad and I begged him at halftime to leave. I was like, this is embarrassing. It's going to get worse. I hate being here. And my dad was like, I will never leave a football game early. I think he left one in like 1988, like 10 minutes early, and we ended up winning. And he was like, well, that's me. I'm never doing that again in my life. And
A
like,
very wise man.
and then like a lot of people after halftime had gone, or they'd stayed inside to drink and just watch it on the screens inside. And after we scored a couple, and it was like looking a bit better, some people did filter back up, but I had no faith, and my dad had all the faith, and it was just this incredible moment. Like I thought I was going to die when we scored the fourth, because like the hug that I was enveloped in, not just by him, but like everyone around me, it was just one of the most incredible moments, and a real lesson to me as well. Never to don't be as annoyed as you want, but just stick it out, because anything can happen.
Yeah, brilliant.
That could easily have been your biggest low light.
Yeah.
If you had left.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine there was a considerable amount of, like, it brings my memory to, I was in St James's when we were 5-0 up on Spurs at halftime. Now, obviously, they didn't do any comeback, and they were never going to. But that away end, I never saw a place vacate, and it didn't, like,
after 20 minutes
again after.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, ridiculous. That was
so
really funny.
It pays to be a bit patient, or at least see it through to the end, right? And
you might as well. You've come up all the way from London. You might as well watch it.
Especially, and we've broken the bank to come over on a Ryanair flight. We might as well stay until the end.
Well,
That's right.
exactly.
Yeah.
All
Hopefully, hopefully we won't need to just make 4-goal comebacks anytime soon, because the nerves can't handle it. But that's a hell of a memory, in fairness. So then that'll bring us over to a low light, or what would be your arguably worst or saddest memory as a Newcastle fan, or at least, again, that pain that maybe makes you who you are today, Charlotte, that you've prevailed and come through this far.
Yeah, I guess there's a couple. I think, not that I was there, but when we lost the FA Cup, it must have been the first time, because the second time, and was it 98?
98, 99.
Yeah, it must have been the first time, because I think the second time, the 99, we were already in a bit of disarray, and it was a bit of a mess anyway. But I think that 98, everybody really believed we could do it. And my dad, we all went to London so that my dad could go with his friend. And he came back, and he was crying. And I just remember being like I was quite young, and I was just like, I don't understand why you're crying, like, but you're so sad, and this seems so sad. So that one, I think, is probably one of my saddest memories. And then I guess like that kind of year of decline before the takeover, where like that just felt like your gears were grinding to a halt. I was so disillusioned with it. That Wolves game before, like 4 days before the takeover, was one of my lowest points. I wasn't very well that day. I was supposed to stay over, and I didn't. Then we were shit, and the game was shit, and Wolves was shit, and it was raining, and I was just like, like had the beginnings of a nasty cut. It was just misery, and then like the wild highs of after that. But like, at that moment, I was like, I don't think I can do podcasts anymore. I can't talk about this team anymore. Everything's the same. It's never going to be good. I suppose it's another lesson in just waiting it out. Just like the Arsenal game.
That's,
but yeah,
that slightly longer. When you have to wait 2.5 years for something nice to happen, it's a slightly longer.
That one's a bit longer. But that kind of, the Wolves game was the sort of end of it because that was the end of it. But that whole year of Steve Bruce and it just being so negative and so toxic and everybody hated it. And like, it was almost like you were going to games to punish yourself. And even when we won, it wasn't good and all of that stuff. So yeah, that's probably the shittest time.
It's just such a contrasting feeling to now. Like, and it doesn't mean we're winning all the time now, right? Last season was tough, but going into games is far different than it was. You know, I mean, I was going over to championship games under Rafa, and it was like, you know, okay, we should go out and beat Birmingham here, and we did. But it's just the vibes are totally different now, and the players you're going to see, the performance you come to expect, it's so different. Just the buzz and everything. So
completely, and I just think like there's hope. There's hope, isn't there? Or there's belief that it can get better. I just don't think I believe that it would get better under Steve Bruce and under Mike Ashley. You just think it's just going to get run into the ground. Well, that's why we did the pledge scheme and the, you know, as well, I think that went well anyway. Lots of charities benefited in massive ways, but you know, that was our one kind of like kernel of hope that at least we have something going on here. It's almost like trying to take back some control or have some agency over what's going on, even though I suppose we didn't.
Well, because everything else was like on fire around you, basically.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. It's like dog at the desk. This is fine, and everything's changed.
Yeah.
Just
exactly
stay like things are fine. Okay, you mentioned there then, Charlotte. Like, you know, obviously it became increasingly tough to keep the enthusiasm and in particular your world, to keep podcasting about it, keep talking about engaging fans. And we do want to talk to you a little bit about, I suppose, how all this came about. Like, obviously with True Faith, you've been doing that for quite a number of years with Alex and all of the crew there. I suppose you could probably start with let's say your origins with True Faith, or even the True Faith origins itself, I guess, from the
sure.
early
Well,
days.
yeah, the True Faith fanzine started in 1999, so that was before me, and Mick Martin started it, and then one of our very dear friends, Glenn Ashcroft, who unfortunately passed away last year, he did most of the graphics for it, and he was sort of this like funny creative brain that would do all of the silly graphics and all of the silly visual jokes in it. That was kind of Glenn's forte. And then True Faith itself started 10 years ago, 2014. So True Faith, the podcast. And I guess, you know, Alex was asked by Mick or worked with Mick, and the origins there are kind of theirs. And in 2017, so I'd gone to school with Alex. We weren't like friendly at school, but you know, Facebook came out when we were at school, so we were like, you know, you add everybody you've ever met on Facebook at that time, so that you have as many friends on there. So we had each other on Facebook, and I knew through Facebook that, like, I think it synced with some of the stuff that he shared on Twitter. So I knew that he was doing something about the football. I think I'd engaged with some of it a little bit, and then I was really, really drunk on a night out in 2017, and we just got beat by Leicester. December 2017. It was December or November. I think it was just early December. And I messaged Alex. I was just like, this guy knows. So I messaged him out of the blue, basically, on Facebook Messenger, being like, why are we so shit? Why won't Rafa play Mitrovic? Was my big question at the time. Like, I was like, why is that not happening? What's going on here? This is like terrible. And Alex was also really drunk, but he was in Singapore. So I think it was like 3 a.m. for him or something like that. And he'd watched the match and he was a bit drunk. And he was sort of like, wow, okay, hi, nice to hear from you after 10 years. And then we chatted a little bit because I think they had had the privilege of meeting Rafa that season, and so he like offered a little bit of insight into that conversation. And then he said, well, we do a podcast, so if you want to come on the podcast, you can. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I was definitely really terrible because I'd never spoken about football before in the way that like you guys do and those guys did. And I also have never played football. I think a lot of boys grow up playing football and now girls do as well. But I didn't have that kind of perspective at all of like, yeah, I'm grateful to Alex actually and the rest of the group, because I think they stuck with me when I was not as confident and not as good at talking about not that I'm some kind of whiz kid now, but like I'm also quite, like I said, I'm quite stubborn. So people were like, she's shit. I was like, right, well then I'm gonna get better.
Challenge accepted.
And there's still loads to learn but I really love learning about it, and I love learning about how people engage with it and all of that stuff. So yeah, they just kindly kind of let me join the podcast every week, and Patreon was launched in 2018, I think, and I was kind of a part of that launch and doing those podcasts. So and it's just kind of grown from there. And then I moved back. I was living in London at the time, and I moved back to Newcastle in 2021. I'd done like pandemic lockdown up here, and I was like, this is where I want to be, especially if things are going to get more serious with the podcast. Like I would like to be here. And yeah, it's just kind of gone, it's a lot of work, but it's great work and I love doing it. So, and like I say, I like learning and trying to improve every time. So don't get it right every time, but keep trying.
No, of course not, right? And it's football, right? So it's never the same either. So you're looking at what you're talking about, who you're talking to, and then how you're getting it out there. But I suppose we as I said, loads of our Irish members, guys, listeners will already be obviously either Patreons or listen to the podcast every week, and it's great to see how far it's come, and including all of us, of course, as well. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Okay, sticking with that, with True Faith then, and this is a question we actually asked Alex as well, and we like to ask some of you guys who are obviously within that circle, particularly being in Newcastle, any particular highlights when it comes to funny anecdotes or people you've met or interviews you've done or chance encounters that kind of are, I suppose, quite memorable, quite unique, that they're the stories you tell when you're having a pint and you're just trying to show off a little bit, entertaining.
From True Faith, God, he loved it. He did a lot more sort of interviewee one, but they met Rafa and they've met other players and things like that. I'm trying to think of what I definitely can say.
Yeah, I was just saying, I should have warned you, but
I don't think I can share on a podcast.
Nobody listens to this, Charlotte.
I think,
or I guess. Like chance, I suppose, particularly being in Newcastle, you know what I mean? Whether it's been through the True Faith or even just on your, on your travels.
You know what, Will, I'll use as my thing, which genuinely was a chance thing, as much as some people didn't believe it. It was after Bournemouth last season, and being on the train, I went down to watch that game, and I have a soft spot for Bournemouth as well, not as much as Ireland, don't worry, but my brother lived in Bournemouth for a long time, and I love it down there, and I've got friends down there. So I'd gone down for the game and then hung about for one of my friends, and then me, my friend Ash, and George Corkin were all on the train platform, and we'd gone to Asda and got a load of like gin and tonics, because the game had been crap, and Kieran Trippier had a go at a fan after, if you remember.
I remember, yes.
Like it was just before a break. I think there was an international break or something. The game had just been awful, and like it was the beginning or in the midst of the injury stuff, and it was not good. And then Amanda Staveley just like appeared on the platform with her people, and Murdad wasn't there. It was just her. And George obviously knows her, so he sort of said hello, and then she was like, I'm so sad about that. Like, I went into the changing room and spoke to the players, and they're all a bit sad, and it was all a bit. And I was like, "Do you want a gin and tonic?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, great." So, so we got
from
on the
a
train.
can.
From a can. So we got on the train, and she was, in the first class bit, and we just sat there, and the guy, I obviously didn't have a first class ticket, but I was like, "Upgrade me, please," playing it cool. And we shared gin and tonic cans and chatted and about the football and all sorts of other things. Like, we have similar sort of family stories that like maybe aren't appropriate necessarily to share here, and like there was she was just really nice. It was just a really nice thing. And then she put a photo on Instagram. She was like, "We've got to get a photo."
Yes.
She's just so funny. "We've got to get a photo. We've got to put it on Instagram." And then everyone was like, this is how this bitch is getting tickets. And I was like, no, I like literally met her on a train platform.
It's typical.
This is the first time I've met her. She's really lovely and really super open, and it was just really nice. And she'd bought a load of sweets and stuff, and so it was sort of like a picnic on the table, and we were having a few gins, and that was really nice. That was nice.
Deadly.
Yeah,
That is good. That is a good story. Yeah. Again, it's the unplanned ones that are always like the most fun,
completely.
the most crack as well. You know,
I didn't expect her to say yes to a gin, and she was like, you know what, yeah. And then we'd bought enough, like we bought too many really, so we all had a couple of cans each, so it was good.
Yeah, I believe that now. Charlotte was like, oh yeah, sorry Amanda, they're not all for me, I bought way too many.
Whoops. It looks like I got 12 instead of 2.
Yeah, there was a special offer, I promise. Yeah. It's a long old train to Bournemouth or to Newcastle from
economical
Bournemouth,
actually to buy.
Yeah,
We were only on the 2-hour train back to London. It was not.
Nice.
Okay, yeah. I stand corrected. Yeah, you have problems, Charlotte. But anyway, Amanda Staveley solved them all for you and fed you with sweets to keep you going, which is fair play to Amanda. Yeah. Shout out to Amanda. Okay, and then just to kind of circle around then on True Faith itself, this Friday there's something happening, I believe, and I'm also psyched because I'm going to be there as well. I know we've got a bunch of the Irish Mags guys travelling over for the Southampton game. We have seen quite a few lads got successful with tickets, guys and girls and kids and everything. So hoping to see as many as we can. Dublin Airport will be hopping with Irish Mags gear as it always is. Would you like to maybe tell us what's going on Friday night? What to expect?
Sure, we're doing True Faith Live at the Gosforth Civic Theatre. It's a live podcast event. We're going to do a few different sections. We've got George Culkin for one of them. He just went out to Japan, so we're going to ask him lots of questions about pre-season, how it was out there. Obviously, he's like the Amanda Staveley kind of authority too. So if there's any more information we can get of that bit, we definitely will. And then we'll have your True Faith favorites. Norman is coming up. So we'll have Norman on stage as well. Norman of the most funny stories in the history of the world. He's hilarious. So that should be really good. And generally, they're just such fun nights. They're very interactive. We know we make sure there's audience participation, but like from your phones as well. You don't have to speak. We won't shove a microphone in front of you if you don't want to speak. But yeah, so that's on at the Gosforth Civic Theatre on Friday night. I believe there are very limited tickets left now, but there may be some available on the evening as well. So call ahead or give us a tweet or something like that, and we'll find out for you.
Give us a tweet. I like that.
Yeah.
Give us a tweet.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Give us a tweet or a blue sky now, I guess.
Yeah.
I just wanted to jump in really quickly because obviously Charlotte Paul does love the sound of his own voice, right? So we're gonna test our accents so that maybe you can get more of a lilt from this side of the country rather than his wild side of the country. But you were talking about Amanda Staveley, and people have so much opinion about her and how well she's done. Her and her husband. She added a kind of bit of glitz and glamour to this new takeover. She was always well spoken when she was talking about Newcastle. You've obviously met the woman. You spent time in her company, having impersonal and personal chats with her. I was just kind of thinking what your view was about her leaving, because some people are saying that they were always going to move on and do something else, or some people are saying that there was a disagreement somewhere and they weren't part of the plans going forward.
My personal view, and I will caveat this with, this is just what I think, kind of reading between the lines of some of it and looking at, all the different interviews and things that have come out since. My personal view is that it was part of the plan for them to eventually step away, but probably not at this stage.
Yeah.
I suspect that was accelerated because of all the other corporate appointments, and maybe it was just the right time for the kind of corporate structure. But I feel that there was so much emotion from her side and Murdad's side about it that perhaps it was not when they thought they were going to go.
It was not their idea.
Yeah, that's just what I think. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, but that's kind of what I was sort of like, oh, okay, this all seems quite abrupt. And then I thought the club statement was quite sanitized, and I understand we've got to look to the future, and like, with the greatest respect to people who've done absolutely massive things for our club, I'm not sure that it was at this point in the plan. Maybe it was in the plan, but it wasn't at this point in the plan. That's what I think. It's a bit of a politician's answer, I think, but
no, it's perfect because it's pretty much what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
I think it's not an uncommon thought, and I you know, from like if you read the big interview with her, I just think it was a bit sooner than
she seemed quite sad about it. She seemed.
That's what I thought. That's exactly what I thought. Yeah, I agree.
I was kind of thinking that maybe like this is another kind of a kind of sticky bit as part of Dan Ashworth's kind of exit. That maybe Amanda and that had something to play with bringing Ashworth in. It was kind of their appointment. It didn't go down very well, and then maybe with Dan Ashworth going, and then the kind of conspiracies surrounding his emails and back and forth, it just looked a bit unprofessional. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then there was a lot of people saying the PSR stuff, although, and the scramble around that the end of that window. I think, maybe it's a combination of a bit of everything, really. Like, it doesn't have to be one thing, does it? It could be just, you know, that you're right, like the Ashworth thing, and then the PSR thing, and then maybe the other appointments, and people like that, you know, they eventually came to the sort of like, okay, we should just do this now. And we've got a CEO, we've got a new director of football, we've got you know, a sport, you know, all of these appointments that have been made, Bunce and the commercial, the operating guy and operations guy, you know. So maybe it's just a combination of like many things, and it can be sad and it can be the right thing, and those things can all exist at once.
Yeah, she's always welcome back in.
100%. Yeah, for gin and tonic.
She'll likely be down at the True Faith show expecting some gin and tonics from a bar.
Yeah, well, she can have as many as she likes. That's absolutely
Let's not disappoint. No, I think it's right though. I mean, over a longer period, particularly with most clubs, if a director leaves or if somebody in an executive role leaves, fans don't really think too much of it. But because of who it was, because it was Amanda and obviously her dad and the faces of the takeover, and they were the faces of all this goodwill and all this positivity, that's where it's a big change. But as we said, hopefully they're leaving things in really, really good shape in terms of the legacy, and it's, you know, onwards and upwards from here. Fingers crossed. Anyway, okay, cool. Thank you for answering all. You can exhale now, Charlotte. That's a lot of questions there now you got. We're not done yet. But thank you for sharing some of those more, I suppose, you know, like personal insights or memories from your own kind of origins and development as a Newcastle fan. We have to say kudos just to close the circle here, from the moment where, you know, you decided that you were going to demand and work your ass off to get a mug from your grandmother to prove that how much you love football, to see it through all the way to now, to be on a podcast about Newcastle. That's determination. I mean, you're going to get that mug someday. It's coming. Yeah.
That's just like, stone cold, like stubbornness, like difficult person to be friends with. But
love it.
Can't argue with that at all.
You've now got an Irish Mags mug on the way. Yeah.
My dream. Oh my God.
There you go. You'll never look back once you've got an Irish Mags mug that actually doesn't exist yet, and now Krisho has a lot of homework.
It's going to be like a white mug and a Sharpie, and he's going to colour it in. Perfect.
Sticker on a mug, it'd be grand.
Sticker.
That sounds great. That sounds great.
Yeah.
A picture of Jeff Hendrick. Yeah, and a picture of Jeff Hendrick on the back of it.
Yeah. Put it on the bottom so when you drink, you can see Jeff's face.
Okay, let's jump into our spotlight. And one of the other reasons we have you here, Charlotte, as we mentioned, we're only a few days out from the beginning of the new Premier League season. Wherever the summer went, we're going to have to just deal with that, even though we don't really have summer in Ireland. But anyway, we won't dwell on that too much. We want to actually have a bit of a chat about our predictions for the season ahead. Now, as we speak, it's very difficult, and we talked about this before, where the season starts before the window closes, and it makes it quite difficult to predict certain things. There may be still some incomings. There's a lot of talk about Mark Gray still. There may be outgoings. We've also heard some rumours about Miggy Almiron, even just a few hours ago before we hit record. It's still very much up in the air. So I guess we kind of have to go into it. Season starts in 4 days. Are we going to have a signing in the door by then? The way the pace of these negotiations are going, not sure. So just before we jump into predictions, Charlotte, do you think we might see an incoming signing, i.e. Mark Gahey or someone to that effect, before the Southampton game, and or an outgoing signing?
Before Southampton? What are we, like 4 days out? It's hard to say. I think we really want him, and I think they're going to move mountains to try and get him. Whether or not that's before Southampton, I'm not convinced. I think there's still a bit of negotiation and back and forth. Crystal Palace know what they've got with him. He's and you saw what he did at the Euros. So, I remain cautiously hopeful that we're going to get him, but I don't think it's going to be before Southampton. And he certainly won't be integrated in a way that he can come on.
Yeah,
the
100%.
No.
Yeah. I think the reality of it is, 4 or 5 days out, there's still going to be, if the fee gets agreed, there's the personal terms, there's the medical, he's going to have to get a train up to Newcastle, have a few gin and tonics. And also, it's just, he's never going to be in the squad. But I think a lot of us are maybe even hanging on to, wouldn't it be nice to see him walk out at halftime?
That's exactly what's going to happen. Unveiled at halftime.
Oh, I like that. I like that. I'll stick with that as an idea.
Okay, we'll go with that. So yeah, and look, there is still 2-3 weeks left in the window, so it's plenty of time. But what we're going to do is we'll attempt to do our pre-season predictions now, obviously with the season starting on Saturday, and then we'll all look very intelligent and insightful when we circle back on this 9 months from now to see who was closest. And I'm looking at Krisho on this one. I can't wait to see what Krisho has here. So we'll do a bit of a speed round, where what I mean by that is we're going to jump through a few specific categories, folks, in terms of our predictions. So we're going to look at final league position, FA Cup finish, League Cup finish, and then player of the season, young player of the season, surprise of the season, eyes emoji. And I've got an asterisk beside signing of the season. And the reason for that is maybe they're here, maybe they're not. And again, it's just a little bit to add a bit of fun and hope and optimism, which is what we do as Newcastle fans religiously.
Always.
Yes, indeed. So we'll give Charlotte a little breather there if she wants to grab a bit of water. We've really been putting her to the test there. And we're going to go to Alan first, because I know Alan is a very optimistic fellow. Feet on the ground all the time. Not a dreamer at all, Alan. You've never been scarred or traumatized as a Newcastle fan in your life. And I'm going to ask you for your predicted league finish for Newcastle United in the 24-25 season.
I think we're going to get 6th place in the league this year.
Wowza. So that would be, assuming that something changes with all these coefficients, if even the top 5 were Champions League, you think we're missing Champions League football?
Yes. The Europa League this year.
Interesting. Krisho, same question.
I'm being cautiously hopeful, just to quote Charlotte. So I think we're going to get Champions League. And I think it's going to happen in the last 4 weeks of the season. We're going to steal 4th on Liverpool and get into the Champions League.
Oh, that's not bad. I like this. Now, Charlotte, you might not know Krisho that well, but Krisho goes to varying ranges of negativity and positivity. And this is definitely one of his more optimistic outlooks on life. And I'm
going for optimism at the start of the season. And then obviously, if you see Charlotte in maybe 8 weeks' time, you'll see a completely different shadow.
I think we'll be 4th by Christmas, like easily. Our run-in is that's a good fixture list up to Christmas to really establish ourselves in the league.
Okay, and Charlotte, would you stick with that 4th then? Would you think that would come the end of the season for your own?
I am sticking. I'm with you, Krisho. I think that 4th. I think Eddie Howe will have his sights set on 4th. I think it's really important we finish in the Champions League again this season. We don't have any European football to distract us. It has to be the focus.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah,
100%.
So I was thinking 5th. Now, part of me has got 5th up there. I'm just looking at what's around us and what's like the other teams. Like some of those teams have just done much more in the window than we have. Even teams like West Ham have done better and more in the window than we have, but I still don't think they have what it takes. So I'm kind of thinking it could be 5th. Now, whether the coefficients can change or not this season after last season, I don't know. So is that me saying we'll get Champions League football? I'm not too sure. I think we would need either something in the next 2.5 weeks to really convince me, particularly like looking at that right forward position, or January, a spark in January to kick us on. Even if we are doing pretty well come the end of the year, the calendar year, I still think we need an extra kick in terms of the squad size, squad quality. So that's where I would be on that one. Okay, back around to you, Alan. Cup finishes. So we'll do both of them at once. We're going to look at FA Cup and League Cup. And this is always a really good topic to see how people feel about the cups.
I'm going to hit us hard first. We're going to go out in the FA Cup in the first round. In the third round, we're going to get Man City. It's going to be absolutely awful. We're going to be all sick of small hospitals, but we're going to win the Carabao Cup.
Oofed.
Okay.
Yeah. Charlotte,
So
I can see you're going. What an
so-
idiot.
Yeah, I'm kind of like the timeline. So January is third round of the FA Cup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
And
we're going to crash out
February-
of that, and February we're going to win the Carabao.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be awful, and we'll be all down, and then Eddie Howe will come out and be like, "It's grand. We're going to win this cup," and that's how we guarantee Europe in February. We're going to win.
I
the
need to
Carabao.
know what Charlotte's about to say. Charlotte has 10 things she wants to say, and she's trying to pick which one to say first.
Firstly, Man City are not unbeatable. We've beaten Man
Oh,
City
no.
before.
100%.
I'm really sick. Not of you, Alan. You're a lovely man. But I'm really sick of people being like, yeah, but we'll just draw Man City and we'll lose. It's like, why? Why can't someone has to beat them at some point? And we have beat them before. And we have everything at our disposal. We have, we actually are looking quite strong in preseason. We've got one cup under the belt with the Salah Cup this weekend just gone.
Yes.
So I just think I actually don't. I think we're going to get to the FA Cup final because the FA Cup is like the magic of the FA Cup. It's like it's the one, isn't it? Like I still think we'll do all right in the League Cup. I think there'll be like a dodgy decision or something will go wrong, and then I still think we'll get quite far in it. But I think we're going to get to the final of the FA Cup, and that's what I want us to do. I want us to win the FA Cup. I don't know about winning it. Alex kind of talked me down the other week when I was like, "We're going to win. We've got to win a cup," and he was like, "You've got to stop saying we've got to win a cup." And I was like, "But we do. We've got to end this drought." I do think it's a priority for the management. One of those cups, I think it'll be the FA Cup, but one of those cups this season has to be won, and I'm going for the FA Cup.
I think we're going to throw the FA Cup and win the Carabao Cup. I think.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but I think the FA Cup for me has a little bit more prestige attached to it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I want that one to be the one we 100%. Don't. Well. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just sitting here going, God, I'll take either, guys. Let's not fight over which one we're going to win. We'll just anyone. But I think the one thing I'll say is, like, from Charlotte, you mentioned the prestige, but for me, I remember those FA Cup finals in the late kind of 1999 was one of them.
It really hurt.
That really hurt, and that's where I would love to go back and get some kind of 25, 26 years later justice on that to correct things.
Stranger things have happened.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. I mean, on that note, I'd probably go. I think that we'd probably go further in the League Cup. I think maybe final or semi-final, but yeah, the FA Cup again, it's just the caliber of teams. Quarterfinal, maybe, I'd say. Not that I don't think we can win it, but I'm just going to trying to be a bit realistic to taper expectations. Chris Shaw?
Same. I don't think that England or the FA or the authorities are ready to let Newcastle win anything. So, so whatever they can do to put in our way to win anything, they will do it. So, look, I know that cups are important. To win something's important, but let's keep it at getting the Champions League. That's the gold medal this season. It'd be nice, Charlotte, to win something, but the gold medal is to get Champions League. And that's what they're aiming at. I think that'd be it's kind of like in a meeting where people say it's a nice to have. That's what those trophies would be. It'd be a nice to have, but the key thing is to get fourth, or win. Don't get me wrong. If we're top by November, I'm just going to call it that we're going to win the league. I'll do it live on the podcast. I'll just say it straight up.
I would like to be invited to that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Call it straight up. There you go.
Chris Shaw.
Wonderful.
Go and tell Alexa to set a reminder that we need to invite Charlotte back in the pod for when you're going to announce that we're going to win the league.
Alexa doesn't talk to me anymore. So,
Alan, nothing Chris Shaw says anymore surprises me, to be honest.
No problem.
See, Charlotte, we've been doing this for 37 weeks in a row with Chris Shaw, so yeah, we're just used to this.
You heard it here first.
Consistency.
Yes, indeed. Consistent nonsense from Grisho. Okay, we go around the house again, and we're going to talk about players this time around. And what I'm going to ask you, Alan, starting with you, would be our player of the season for the coming season.
I think it's going to be a man who's going to play like a demon possessed over what happened last season, and it's going to be Tonali.
Ooh.
Yes.
I can't wait for Tonali to be here.
He's coming back.
It's going to be so good. How good this man is going to be.
The club have been hyping him like he's a new signing. Yeah.
I can't wait for him.
It's going to be phenomenal. Like, what do we said? It's the Tottenham game that he.
Yeah.
I mean, whether he'll play or not.
27th he's allowed back, isn't he?
Yeah.
So it would be
17 more
Thursday.
days or something. Yeah.
Not that who's counting, not me.
Yeah, I'm definitely not following that Twitter account anyway. That keeps telling me.
Welcome. I mean, Krisha, you spoke about the British government. We're going to have to tell them about National Sandro Tonali Day, which is 27th of August.
Yeah, give us another bank holiday.
Yeah, we can do that. Don't know if it'll go as far as Ireland, but anyway. Okay, same question for you, Krisho. Player of the season.
Isak's gonna get even better than he was last season. He's fully bedded into the area. I think he gets on really well with Eddie Howe. I think he likes the way the team plays. I think the more games he's played, the better he's looked, and I think he's going to step up even further. Now, obviously, that's going to make Real Madrid and other people kind of take more notice of him than they already have. But this is the season that we're going to see like a Shearer season. 35 goals in all competitions, or something like that. And I think he's going to be by far the player of the season. And if we do win anything, or if we do get second, third, or first or fourth, it'll be because of this guy. 100%.
I'm in that camp. Isak was my answer as well. I'm so excited to see a full season from him. If we can keep him fit, see what he can do without the sort of distraction of a million other different games. He's just so good. I don't actually mind that it'll keep sort of Real Madrid, etc., like sniffing around. I think that probably motivates a player. Not that he will necessarily leave, but being talked about in those terms is a very motivating and sort of ego driving thing. So yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it as long as he's scoring goals for us.
I'm the same, yeah. I'm Team Isak here. He already looks so sharp in pre-season. Didn't have a Euros, which is unfortunate for him, but it helps for us. He looks so sharp in pre-season, and I'm if Callum Wilson can maintain any kind of fitness, i.e. he's on the bench, to keep Isak aware that there's the guy there, and then obviously the new signing Will Osula. I like the idea of a fit Isak, a motivated Isak that just has a little bit of competition to keep that edge, to keep that freshness. I'm fully on board. If we have all those three things, he's going to smash it this season, big time. I'm going to pause because Alan has sent me a message, and Charlotte has had a big look of shock on her face.
Yes.
And I don't know if they're about the same thing.
Yeah, it is.
Is there breaking news about Mark Gahey as we speak?
It's
or
coming through that transfer checker are saying that Crystal Palace are about to accept our latest offer. That they're
how can you be about to accept an offer?
It says that it's financially suitable, and structure of the deal is that they're happy to go with it. So it's just people I spoke to are under the impression that Newcastle's latest offer for Mark Gahey is financially suitable to strike a deal. Palace open to the sale, talks ongoing. Striking heights like to be the structure and add-ons. So it's looking slightly better than it was half an hour ago.
Tell Mark Gahey I said hi, Paul, at the weekend. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I'll be sure to mention you to him. Don't worry when he's walking out at half time.
Yeah.
Charlotte, you had a big look of shock on your face. Is it something similar?
It was he popped it in the private chat there, and I could see it, and then I started googling it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. It's not an exclusive, but exclusively as we record the pod, talks progressing. The Gahey deal is getting closer, and what a deal it would be. Oh my God. Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. Okay, now we had one vote for Tonali, which I'm fully behind, lads. I'm obsessed with Sandro Tonali for many, many reasons, and obviously 3 votes for Isak. Young player of the season, Alan, then, and this is an interesting one because we do have some players who've been at the club for a while but are still quite young, obviously. Who would your vote be for young player of the season?
A man who I have been very, very impressed with in pre-season, and it's going to be Lewis Hall. I think he has come on leaps and bounds, and I do think he's going to have a massive, massive year for us this year.
It would be great to see. We talked about this before, the type of left back that Eddie Howe was leading towards before in the mould of Dan Burn, obviously. A more defensive, inverted or whatever, sits in with the back two. You'd love to see a bit more expansion on that left-hand side with Lewis Hall and obviously Livramento on the right-hand side. So, yeah, I can get behind that. Krisho, young player of the season.
Tino.
Capital letters.
Capital letters, Tino. He is, again, like I was saying about Isak, I won't labour on the point too much, but again, we saw not just glimpses, but he's an excellent footballer. And I think once he knows this is my right-back position, this is my position, I think this guy is going to be he's going to be the future England right back, and he's going to be one of our star players for the next decade if we don't sell him, of course. But this guy legitimately is going to be young player of the year. He's brilliant, fantastic. He is.
Charlotte.
Yeah.
Anything different?
I would have said Tino probably. I was looking when you said that young player of the season, and I don't think he'll get much game time, so maybe it's a completely redundant thing to say. But I'm trying to. I wouldn't say the name right, but Trevan Sanusi has been really exciting in preseason, and Eddie Howe has completely kiboshed the idea that he's going to go out on loan. He wants him there, he wants him close, and he wants to work with him. And there's a lot of talent there. So I don't necessarily think he'll break out this season, so it's probably the wrong answer to the question. But I think a massive one to watch, and we probably will see him get a bit more game time, especially if we're comfortable in the league. And we'll get to see him sort of get out there and get a bit of experience on the pitch.
Just on Sanusi, start breast game, he dropped the shoulder and went left, and I looked right. I was 60 yards away from the man, and I was like, what the hell is he? How did he do that?
Right.
No.
He turned you in your seat.
Unbelievable.
But I think there's something very exciting there, and like I didn't, I wasn't at the Cellar Cup, but I was looking, watching videos and looking about, trying to keep up with it all, and I was talking to people who were there, and they were like, "This is the guy." Like, there's something very exciting there. So,
I mean,
maybe this season isn't the one, but one to watch for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I've got a couple of people that were in the stack talking away, and a couple of Newcastle people, and they were like, "We're all right with Minter going. We've got Sanusi."
Yeah.
So
love it.
People move on quick. Love it.
Yeah.
Very
It's
quick.
dog eat dog world.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's exciting though to have a player in the academy. Was he is he even 18?
17.
17.
No, it's incredible.
He's the new one that we're going to say he's only 17, because Lewis Miley is of course now 18, so you can't say
He's
that about him.
ruined.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
ruined it. He got older and he ruined it.
Yeah. Ruined the buzz. Okay. Right, we have two more categories to get through then. One would be surprise of the season. Now, again, Sanusi could be one, Alan, in terms of if he does actually manage to get a breakout, especially with the competition there between Barnes and obviously Gordon.
Well, you know exactly where I'm going with this, because I'm going to say the surprise of the season will be winning the Carabao Cup and Sanusi scoring the winner in the quarterfinal.
In the
Love it.
quarterfinal specifically.
Well, that would be a
Quarterfinal.
surprise.
Yes.
That would be a
So
surprise.
that's what I'm going with.
Love it.
I live for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yes.
he would be 17 and a legend for the rest of his life. Never
Yes.
pays for
Oh,
a
yeah.
pint again
Yeah, my
before he's
God.
even old
The
enough to drink
king
one.
of Newcastle.
Yeah,
That's it.
fully supportive.
Yeah.
Krisho,
Same here, Paul. Sanusi, I've got an awful feeling that Eddie Howe spotted a real gem here. And I think he takes his instructions very well. He does what Eddie asks him. He loves players like that. And I think that this guy's going to get a bit of a run out, and he might do something very spectacular. A little bit of
interesting.
Christian Atsu mixed with Ben Akra.
Ooh. That's
Nice.
not bad. That's not bad. Ben Arfa meets Atsu. There's a lot that can happen there.
Yeah.
Okay. Charlotte, surprise of the season for you. What would
Surprise of the
surprise you?
season's a tough one, isn't it? I'm going to say winning both cups.
What?
Yeah.
I'm going to
Love it.
surprise
That
us all
would
and win them both.
Very surprising. indeed.
Alex is currently shouting at the screen.
Ending the 6-8-year drought with both cups. There you go. That's going to surprise us all.
I love it.
I mean, that would be a slightly Newcastle way of doing it, you know what
Right?
I mean? Like extreme. We live in a world of extremities as Newcastle fans. Okay, wowza.
Love
Mine is definitely not as exciting as that, but what I've just put down here, Joe Willock. I think that we have. I think that we saw a glimpse of what Joe Willock can do when he basically rescued us single-handedly when he was on loan before he even signed permanently. I feel like he, again, in a world where I don't think we're ever going to sign a centre midfielder here, right? So we got to get Tonali back in there. It's not going to be all Bruno and Joe Linton. I like the idea that Joe Willock can effectively break up Eddie Howe and Sean Longstaff, because obviously Eddie's a big Longstaff fan. But I'd love to think that Willock can get in there and actually surprise us. And by surprise, I mean, getting a run of goals together, being a different dynamic in that midfield, and even at some point, if he can maintain that form, get those conversations back as to should he be talked about from an England perspective, because it was not that long ago where he was. So That's my kind of out there shout for a surprise of the season. Right. Now, we've just had breaking news, apparently, of Mark Guehi edging ever closer. I was going to ask you for signing of the season. Are we all just looking at it going, well, Mark Guehi is the answer to this one? Or does anyone have anything that's not Mark Guehi if that deal does go through?
I still think we're going to pick up Nani Madueke. I think he's going to come in on a loan to buy as a kind of haul deal. I can see that happening, and I can see him absolutely running amok for us this year.
Okay. I would accept that. When he has played well for Chelsea, he's been the best player in the field.
Yeah.
And hasn't played consistently, let's say. I know we had question marks before on, he was having a little bitch argument about penalties or something with Nicholas Jackson. But again, I think Eddie and Mad Dog will quickly shake that out of both of them. That was the thing. Okay. Charlotte, anything for you from a signing of the season perspective?
I just wish we could sign a keeper,
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Bench full of them.
What is Jack Butland up to at the moment?
Gay, I think, is my that's a mass. It's a statement and a half, isn't it? It's a big one. So getting him, integrating him into the squad, and sort of shoring up that defense, because although we could score a lot last season, we were and obviously that's the Nick Pope question, a joke about keepers, but he'll be back, and that was a big part of the fact that we let in a lot of goals last season. But shoring that defense up with a talent like that is just will just enable us to work so much further up the pitch. It's going to be really exciting.
Have you been reading my rants in the Irish Mags? Sounds an awful lot like what I've been saying lately.
How did you get into the Irish Mags WhatsApp group, Charlotte?
Constant.
We're the same person.
Yes.
For many things. Charlotte, watch back the other 36 episodes of the Irish Mag Show and then tell us if you still feel you're the same as that.
Yeah.
2 weeks. I won't stop watching them the entire time.
Yes. We are fully on board with that. Okay, that's nearly all the categories, but a yes/no answer for the last one. And I don't even know if we'll dare to say what is your rationale depending on your answer. The final question I had for you guys in terms of predictions, and we'll go to Alan first. Will Eddie Howe still be the manager of Newcastle United by the end of the season?
Absolutely.
Okay, can't argue with that. That's simple. Krisho?
It's 2 words. Yes, just.
Wowza. Okay, interesting. Charlotte?
Yes.
Okay, that's a yes he will versus a yes I would like him to.
It's a yes he will, but the underneath of the answer is if a lot of what we've talked about actually comes true. The run in is good. By Christmas we're in third or second or third or whatever. I don't think he needs to worry about his position in that case.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think he's had all this time with the players. He's going to have players he's not been able to work with at all because of all these injuries. If they can get that right, I don't see why not. I don't see why there'd be any question marks over it. As we said, the next 3 weeks are important, the January transfer window, but if he's backed in the window, if we get the players we need, I don't have any fears over that. So, okay, unanimous on Eddie Howe. Fingers crossed we're all right come the end of the season indeed. Okay, Charlotte, just before we let you go, we have a couple of random spot questions that came in from some of our Irish mags. We did put it out there that we're going to have you join us. Nothing, I don't worry, I've had a look through them. Nothing that you should be fearing. So just a couple of questions from our listeners, let's say, and some of the Irish mags in the group. First question came in from Sean. He basically said, if we only sign Guehi, let's say from this point on, do you think we still get top 4?
Yes, but I think it'll be a harder job. Yeah, I think we're going to be too exposed on the right wing, but I still think we can. Okay,
good start. Next question. We've kind of touched on this. Would you rather win a cup or get Champions League football? I think we know your answer.
I want to end the cup. I want a cup drought, and that often can ensure, some kind of Europe.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. What would be your one prediction for the club for the next 2 seasons, in terms of, let's say, highest league finish, or we mentioned cup wins? What would be in the next 2 seasons, kind of something you'd expect to happen, maybe different or new or positive?
A Champions League final.
Oof.
Wowza. Okay, that's a big one.
I thought Chris Show was out of his mind.
Is that not different than you?
I love it.
That's different than you. That would be
I love it,
That's
Charlotte.
very
I
different
love
than
it.
Yeah.
That's the
Why
new
not?
podcast title.
Why not?
Champions League final in 2 years.
I didn't say we're going to win it necessarily, but let's
Yeah,
do
yeah,
a
yeah.
final.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
See,
I'm
everybody
fully on
thinks
board
this.
with that.
Everybody thinks the same, guys. You know, let's be positive. Let's be real positive.
Yes, indeed. And then the last one isn't really a question, but we just had one of the Irish mags come in and reply to us, and he said, "We're going to win the league this year, 33-1. Put your house on it." So, Charlotte, I don't know where you take your gambling advice from. If it's strangers from the Irish mags group, there's
It's
one piece of
actually,
advice
that's
to you.
exactly where I take. So I actually have never placed a
I thought
bet
so.
before. So I was
Good.
waiting for that
Uh-oh.
to come in. So yeah,
Gamble
great.
responsibly, everybody.
Yes.
I'll head on
Yeah.
down to the bookmakers and put my house on us winning the league.
Yeah.
Great
Oh,
idea.
It looks so nice behind you. Remember this moment. Okay, cool. I think we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Charlotte, again, thank you so much. We've really put you to the test there. And
Thanks a
lads, of
lot.
course, going around with all our predictions. We'll see how these predictions look when we fast forward 9 months and circle back on all these, because I have them all written down and they're not going anywhere. Again, yeah, Charlotte, just thank you so much for joining us. We'd love to have
Of
you
course,
on.
thank you so much for having me.
If you could, just in case our listeners don't know, where can people find you? And there's no need to tell us about your house, because apparently you're going to lose it down at the bookies.
Yeah, that's
Where
it.
can people find you online?
I'm buying a mansion in Darras Hall after this season's done.
Yes.
With my winnings. I am at Charlotte Hope on Twitter. I am at Charlotte Rob, I think, on Blue Sky, which is where everybody seems to be going.
a new one.
And then if you want to find the podcast more generally, it's at TFN UFC on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, all of that stuff. So it's there. And then if you want to listen to, you don't want to engage with us on social media, that seems fair enough. It's just the True Faith Newcastle United podcast in all of your podcast apps.
Yes, indeed. Highly recommend. And of course, for anyone traveling to the Southampton game this weekend, don't forget the live show is on Friday night. A very small number of tickets available. Charlotte has promised free gin and tonics for everyone.
I'm not sure that's
There's an
what
exclusive.
I don't think I said that.
I heard what I heard.
Yes.
Um,
with
Paul
an
will be there.
asterisk, with an asterisk beside it, apparently, from a can. That does bring episode 37 of the Irish Mags Show to a booming close. As usual, you can find the links to all of the Irish Mag socials in the description below, as well as the links for Charlotte and, of course, True Faith. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll be back for more Irish Magnus later in the week with our Sella Weekend review and a special Irish Mags pre-season update. So until then, all we'll say is, how are the lads? Slán go fóil, and see you all very soon. Thank you, Charlotte and Alan and
Thanks,
Krisho
Charlotte.
and listeners. Have a good week.
Long lads.
Slán lad.